Let's be real. Most people say they want a better life, but far fewer are willing to raise the standards required to create one. Honestly, your current life, your current state of affairs, isn't just a reflection of your untapped potential. It is a reflection of your standards, the relationships you stay in, even when you know you shouldn't, the promises you keep to yourself or you don't, the way you spend your mornings, the way you spend your nights, the foods you eat or you don't, the excuses you continue to make or accept. Whether we realize it or not, our standards quietly shape almost every part of our lives. So today, I am unpacking the 6-step framework that completely changed everything about mine. Let's unpack it. You are listening to the S.A.M Show podcast, the home for ambitious women and even a few really good top-tier men who are committed to learning, growing, and becoming just 1% better every single day. I'm your host, Shari Mitchell, writer, journalist, media host, and certified professional life coach who is obsessed with all things wellness and personal development. Around here, we talk about living well, thinking well, and becoming well because I believe a most fulfilling, purposeful life is not one that's built with brute force overnight. Rather, it's built with one intentional, sustainable choice at a time. Here at S.A.M Show, S.A.M is more than just my initials. It stands for becoming soft, aligned, and magnetic. It means seeing yourself clearly, honoring your needs, owning your story, and walking in your worth. So whether you're listening on your morning walk, during your commute, or while folding laundry, I am so glad that you're here. Let's get into today's conversation. Hey lovely, thank you so much for pressing play today. Look, I don't think we talk about standards enough. We spend so much time talking about confidence, motivation, discipline, success, but very little time talking about the quiet, behind the scenes decisions that sit underneath all of those things. For over the past 30 plus years of my life, this is what I've learned. Every standard you accept as true eventually becomes your normal, your default, your baseline, your post, your everyday familiar. The way that you treat people, the way people treat you, the promises you keep to yourself, the effort you give, the excuses you tolerate, they all become part of your identity before they even become part of your results. And that wasn't always obvious to me. After moving back home to my island home, I spent years feeling like I'd somehow gone backwards. My confidence disappeared. I compared myself with everyone, and I genuinely believed that life happened to me, not for me. And things had officially spiraled out of control, and there was no coming back from it. Looking back now, I realized something very different was happening. I led with doubt and fear into this period of great unknown. As such, my typically high standards had quietly changed to match my visual, my perspective of my circumstances and the way that I felt about my life changing. Once I recognized that, I slowly started rebuilding from literally ground zero, the bottom up and from the inside out. And that is what I want to share with you today. So before we begin with what personal standards really are, I need to preface this with my own personal story time and the fact that when I was growing up, everybody around me low-key operated from a baseline of mediocrity. Growing up in the 90s, I was too young to notice, however, but I knew nothing about how the real world actually worked. There was just like this baseline of average Joe normalcy, and that was the norm, that was the familiar. From a very young age, however, that average Joe normalcy, it was never really extended to me. Having Caribbean parents, being from the Caribbean, where education is held to such a high standard, I was pushed to succeed. I had a strong educational backing. And that looked like private school, going to one of the best high schools in the country, moving overseas for university, where I got a bachelor's, a master's, and then, of course, you end up in the job market after that. And when your Caribbean parents do everything in their power to make sure that you're a cut above the rest, you do your damnness to make them proud, no matter what. And that is what life was like for me. I always knew what my next step was on that ladder of self-actualization. I always knew what I was working toward. I always knew what the next milestone was going to be. And I always knew what would put a smile on my parents' face. But that was until I left my glorious, whimsical, magical life of living in Europe during my 20s, and I moved back to my tiny island. I thought my world had crumbled. I had finally come into my own whilst living my best life overseas for approximately 6 years. And then as soon as I realized that it was time for me to pack my bags and move back home, it was like my confidence also went packing. And with that major life transition, I didn't want that, but I could not do anything about it because my visa was running out and you literally have no choice. So I suddenly adopted the belief that, all of a sudden, after years of grooming myself and being groomed for success and achievements, my luck had finally come to its end. In reality, I can't have exactly what I want. That is what I was telling myself. So on returning to my island, where the systems are slower, the job market opportunities are honestly not as great as I would have had overseas, it was tough. All of a sudden, life just felt so much heavier, especially the part about losing my independence and moving back in with my parents and not being as mobile as I previously was. So I felt like I was moving backward instead of forward. And with my background, I just knew that there was still more to life for me. I just could not connect the dots now of how to get to that vision of paradise that I always had in my head. There was no way that I was happy and comfortable with where I was, and those thoughts kind of led me down this long, dark corridor of thinking less about myself, feeling like a failure, comparing myself to every other highly educated friend that I had who seemed to have everything working out for them perfectly. I, on the other hand, I was just doing considerably less. But what I didn't realize was my victim mode was on its highest level. As such, I was totally blind to realizing that I would never live up to that true potential I dreamed of because my inner belief system, it was malfunctioning. And as an organized type A personality, this hurricane shift in my life was not easy to accept. In my own mental ways, I did fight back, refusing to resign myself to this fate and believing that within weeks I would be back on a plane, returning to the life that I preferred. But when the weeks turned into months and my suitcase, I had to unpack it, I found myself a job as well in the local economy. I really had to sit with myself and ask myself, since we cannot really return to the past, what do we want this new phase of life to look like now? Many people struggle continuously in life because they never develop that self-awareness, self-love, or self-confidence to raise the bar and set new standards for themselves. And that is what I had to do. I had to throw away the old standards and develop new ones for a new life. I knew for sure that my confidence was gone, so believing for more was a challenge, but I was tired of living my life in a very subpar, victimized, woe is me, bare minimum type of way. So if you're anything like me and you've been through situations that make you feel dissatisfied with your status, your current status quo, your current normal, this is for you. And the way I see it is that personal standards are the set of beliefs, behaviors, and values that you've decided to live by. They are the baseline behaviors, treatment, habits, routines, and experiences that you accept as so normal and so everyday in your life. They govern how you live your life, what people learn to expect from you, and what you're willing to put up with as well. They are basically the rules that you live by without even thinking. For example, if your standard is, I don't respond to messages that disrespect my time, you naturally stop engaging with flaky people without the drama. Or if your standard is, I work out when I feel like it, consistency and discipline will always feel impossible. You cannot just have any type of standards governing your life and think that you will still reach the pinnacles of achievement. Subconsciously, most people know this, and that is why they prefer to stay the same. Standards come with consequences. It is literally that simple. Raising your standards forces you to confront your old patterns, your people-pleasing, your fear of being alone, the version of you that survived by settling, and it forces you to also confront what no longer belongs. And that is why if you do these things, you may lose friends, you may feel lonelier before you feel free. You may be called too much, too cold, too difficult, or too different, and you may be told that you've changed. But what's really happening is that you are no longer available for all of the things that once felt familiar. Familiarity is not the same as alignment. The moment that you raise your standards, you do, unfortunately or fortunately, you outgrow people, you disappoint others, you spend more time alone, you can't unsee your own patterns even, and you cannot go back to the old ways that just were not working. For many people, they don't want to go through all of that. Chaos feels safer and more familiar than clarity, and so they stay the same. But I didn't want to stay the same, and neither should you. We should all be leveling up and growing as the days progress. So this is what I did, my 6-step framework for raising my own personal standards step by step. And the first one was to get honest about what's currently draining. This goes for you. Your exhaustion is your information. That is your feedback. So ask yourself, what drains me that I keep excusing? What do I keep tolerating that costs me peace? Where do I feel resentful but silent? What would I advise a friend to walk away from? What would I never accept for someone that I love? It makes no sense to have big goals if you don't have the high standards to meet them. Let's be real. Your pain points are your clues to what is draining you. Once you know exactly where your lack of standards is causing you to feel drained, you can move on to step 2. Step 2 is deciding what is now non-negotiable. And you have to start from somewhere, anywhere. Don't make it too difficult on yourself. Now that you know what your current standards are and how they are affecting your life, you need to ask yourself, how would you like to rewrite that script? What would your new values, beliefs, and behaviors look like in their ideal state? You can choose standards in key areas. For example, relationships, work, health, time, your self-talk. And examples can be, I require emotional safety, so I don't stay where I feel emotionally unsafe. I follow through on promises to myself. I protect my rest before burnout forces me to. I don't stay where I feel small or taken for granted. Examples like this, you need to define. You need to write them down. There is honestly magic in writing things down. I write things down all the time. So make a list of every area in your life where your standards feel porous and weak. Areas where you know if they are raised, they will undoubtedly bring you success. And then highlight the top 3 critical areas that you know you should work on first. Before we continue, I want to take this moment to quickly mention something. If today's conversation is hitting close to home and you're thinking, I wish I could unpack more of this with someone, that's exactly why I created the Everyday Becoming Coffee Chat. It's a relaxed 45-minute one-to-one conversation where we sit down, drink in hand, untangle whatever feels messy, and find practical next steps together. Whether you're rebuilding your confidence, learning how to believe in and trust yourself, trying to become more consistent, navigating heartbreak, improving your wellness habits, or simply figuring out your next chapter, I invite you to chat with me. I'd love to support you. You'll find the booking link for this opportunity in today's show notes. Right, let's get back to the episode. This is the part that most people skip. Nobody wants to change their behavior. But you cannot demand what you don't demonstrate. You cannot expect from others what you don't practice. Step 3. You need to align your behavior first. It's important to first develop simple rituals and routines for yourself that reflect your higher standards. So if your standard is honesty, be honest. If your standard is effort, show effort. If your standard is calm, maybe start meditating and stop engaging in chaos and drama. If your standard is respect, stop disrespecting yourself. If your standard is peace, stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. If your standard is consistency, practice it daily. If your standard is positivity, maybe recite positive affirmations every single day. If your standard is success, start your day working on a project before the rest of the world wakes up. Experiencing little accomplishments and motivational boosts like these every day, they are the key to building momentum. And momentum will keep you proactive and in action mode for the long run. To step 4, to practice calm reinforcement, not emotional reactions. High standards are quiet embodiment. There are no speeches, no ultimatums, no emotional monologues, no arguments, no explanations, no convincing. That's because you have peace within yourself and you feel grounded. You feel stable in your own choices. So you simply stop responding, you decline invitations with love, you adjust your access or other people's access to you. You walk away without bitterness. Standards are enforced and embedded through behavior, not words. That is what we established in step 3. So through practicing this with yourself, you're better able to practice it with others. Boundaries, which is what these are, help you conserve your energy and bring you calm. They don't need justification or explanation. Step 5 is to embrace the discomfort without backtracking or running away. Not every day is going to be easy. The hardest part of standards is holding them when it costs you something. When you feel that loneliness or that prolonged silence, or you feel distance or this temporary uncertainty, you need to remember that raising your standards will always, at some point, feel lonely and alien before it feels liberating and normal. Why? Because most people don't do it. You will feel different. You will feel strange. But at some point, once you're strong and brave enough to stand in your truth and not run away, you will feel so good about yourself and it will become your everyday existence. And people will eventually want to learn from you. How did you do it? And that is where we are at with step 6, living up to your standards daily. To maintain this momentum and to live up to those higher standards that you've set for yourself, you daily have to make it your business to continue to strive for and even surpass that high level at which you've chosen to now operate. It's about starting small, being consistent, and doing it in a way that feels good. Living up to your raised standards means surrounding yourself with go-getters and people of excellence who can inspire you, motivate you, guide you, and help you grow every day. Investing in your own personal growth journey with podcasts, courses, books, networking events, coaching. The options are endless when it comes to investing in your own growth journey. It means choosing alignment over convenience, saying no without guilt, choosing your health and wellness, letting people reveal themselves on their own without forcing it, trusting yourself enough to walk away. It means a better regulated nervous system, grounded decision making. It feels like your relationships are healthier, more aligned, more reciprocal, and more enjoyable. It feels like a boost of energy, renewed self-trust, a life that feels intentional instead of reactive, and embodying your highest vision of self overall. And once you experience life with standards rooted in self-respect, you will never crave chaos again. By setting higher standards and continuing to live up to them, you don't need to worry about settling for average, because you won't. You won't allow yourself to accept anything less than what you truly want, because you'll be dedicated to excellence and determined to succeed. Keep becoming, and I'll see you in the next upload. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. If today's conversation encouraged you, I would love for you to subscribe and also share this episode with anyone you think might need it. You can also find the written version of today's episode over on my Substack, and it will also be available in the show notes attached to this audio. The video version for this can also be found on YouTube. If you'd like to go deeper, you can also book an Everyday Becoming coffee chat with me, browse my collection of digital resources, download my free guides, or support the continued production of this podcast with a donation. Every link is waiting for you in today's show notes. Until next time, keep becoming, keep choosing yourself, keep living with intention, and I will see you in the next one.